Even though I hate clubbing in real life, there's something about watching it on screen that makes me yearn for an experience I have not once enjoyed, longing for the simultaneous intimacy and anonymity, the ringing ears, the recklessness, the fleeting eye contact, drunken conversations, and endless possibility. It becomes strangely intoxicating, a unique space that heightens every encounter, conversation, song, and connection, an alternate world in which we can either set aside our true selves or embrace an unseen aspect of it. It's a place of hedonism, regret, carelessness, and revelation, and nothing seems more enticing than a room full of sweaty strangers and the thrill of letting yourself go. You can be whoever you want to be, or somebody you don't. So what's it really all about? We've seen the drunk girls, strained conversations, clumsy romantic beginnings, and moments of self-actualization that take place in the club, with the space acting as something of a catalyst to those who visit. It's a place where relationships are made and broken, innermost desires revealed, and everyday masks are discarded. Music becomes a higher power and dance a form of unanimous worship, creating a blanket of anonymity that allows you to unleash a raw, less refined version of yourself, almost acting as if there is no self. And after making a list of films that contain clubbing scenes, I noticed an intriguing yet slightly dangerous strand that links them together. Because the club might be bumping, but what's really happening underneath?
Move your body like a beat. Dance with me. 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 Move your body like a beat.
When we're in the club, there's a special kind of impersonal intimacy that is formed between all the people there. It's an unspoken understanding that comes from an informally ritualized activity, with everybody united through shared purpose and a very simple social protocol: to dance and have fun. When convening with a group of strangers who are all there for the same reason, we are shielded with a level of anonymity that comes from collective focus on something outside of the self. Nobody cares to know who you are because who you are is no longer important. It's about something else, even if it means something different to everyone who visits. For queer characters, the club is a place to reveal or revel, either allowing you to act on an aspect of your identity that has been repressed or celebrate its expression. The anonymity of the club encourages characters to abandon their performance and slip away from a permanent mask, and in doing so, find community with people who reflect their true selves. In films like And Then We Dance, La Petite Dernier, Blue Jean, and But I'm a Cheerleader, the characters experience a euphoric sense of release after being truly seen for the first time, opening up a side of themselves that is often hidden and creating a safe space for them to be authentic. In All of Us Strangers, Passages, Looking, Call Me By Your Name, Euphoria, and Rotting in the Sun, it's an exclusive space where the characters are unbounded in expressing their love for each other, with no barriers or restrictions placed on their identity or ability to create connection. It's an almost utopic place in which any inhibition simply melts away, with even the most shy or introverted characters putting themselves out there and finding hidden confidence they don't possess in everyday life. But while the space is inarguably more important within queer culture, with a profoundly liberating role throughout history, the role of the club in the lives of straight characters is for once actually more interesting, with a purpose that isn't linked to emancipation, relief from pain, or fundamental assertion of humanity. So if it isn't essential, then what is it for? Sociologically speaking, Owen Altman and Dalmas Taylor were really onto something when describing the kinds of transformations that take place in the club. Both men were known for the creation of social penetration theory, a psychological theory proposing that people develop and deepen relationships through a process of self-disclosure, slowly revealing more intimate layers of themselves until the superficial self has been discarded. As a wise ogre once said, onions and people have layers, and the club accelerates this process of self-disclosure and sheds another layer. Because when there are no limitations on the self, the club encourages us not to affirm it, but to either distract from it, realize a new aspect of it, or destroy it. In films like Human Traffic, The Last Days of Disco, Saturday Night Fever, and Party Girl, the characters attempt to distract from the harsh glare of reality and seek a higher purpose. They desperately try to create a feeling of belonging, even if there's nowhere they need to be, attaching themselves to any place that will have them. The process of stumbling through adulthood makes you feel completely out of control, overwhelmed by the journey ahead, the newfound responsibilities that haven't quite sunk in, and a barely formed image of the life you're looking for. You have no idea where you're heading, but in the club, you're met with the brief clarity that in that moment, there's nowhere else you need to be. While also distracting from the vast stretch of uncertainty that lies ahead of us, it's also a way of distracting from the corporate rhythms that begin to take over our lives in early adulthood, trying to break free from the endless working cycle after making the painful discovery that this loop will continue until retirement, if you get that far. You try compensating for this corporate boredom by injecting a week's worth of fun into one night, anything to distract from the endless Mondays that plunge you right back into a life that you haven't quite figured out how to tolerate. The club is a place of organised chaos. It's a somewhat aimless activity with no prescribed beginning, middle or end. However, everyone is united through the shared goal of dancing to the same song, but with a sea of bodies that move in different ways and find their own way of getting through the night. You might not know where you're going, but for now, you are here. And if you dwell in enough delusion, then you imagine that the club needs you too, and thus becoming the ultimate distraction. For many other characters, the club is a liminal space of self-expression where you can try out a different version of yourself. People make out-of-character decisions that are spurred on by the anonymity of the space and blanket of solidarity that drowns out any objections. It's a boundaryless haven that's crammed with hedonistic pleasures, either leading you to let go and open a new avenue of self-expression, or behave in a destructive way that purely aligns with your own self-interests, something that depends on the person going. In films like Booksmart, Girl Picture, Raw, Titan, and 20th Century Women, characters who enter with a strong sense of self can be freed through this way of thinking, awakening another side of themselves and being granted temporary freedom to experiment with their self-expression and loosen the rules they've lived by. But for others, it can be slightly more dangerous. Characters with less confidence, assertiveness, or a sense of self are easily manipulated by the crowd and pulled towards something self-destructive, either through being pressured into doing something they don't want to do or indulging their most selfish impulses. While it is an anonymous space at heart, many people maintain their anonymity in this space by conforming to the culture of organised chaos. And in films like Black Swan and How to Have Sex, the characters are blindsided by the hidden expectation that in order to conform, they must breach their own boundaries and do something they don't want to do. Their discomfort in such a space eliminates any sense of solidarity and connection, only alienating them and heightening their lack of belonging. But there are others who behave destructively not by breaching their personal boundaries, but moral boundaries. In films like Climax, Passages, and The Social Network, the seductive hedonism of the club only spurs on their most selfish desires, leading them to make decisions that will not only affect that night, but the rest of their lives. They're lured by a facade of no tomorrows, with a rush of false power that only enables their worst selves. But as well as the layers that we peel back within ourselves, this process of self-disclosure is also extended to our relationships and the people we go to the club with. In a setting that is both expository and anonymous, the club encourages our most unfiltered selves and brings the intricacies of a relationship out into the open, either strengthening the bond or damaging it forever, regardless of sexuality. In films like Baby Girl, Medicine for Melancholy, and Looking, the club heightens the world of two people who are oblivious to the chaos around them, creating romantic and sexual tension through their intensity in such a fleeting and impermanent space. But for others, this newfound honesty will deteriorate relationships that weren't founded on anything real. When your deepest desires and vulnerabilities are laid bare, it only highlights that which is superficial. The same thing happens between Tara and Sky in How to Have Sex, and Alice and Charlotte in The Last Days of Disco, bringing out a toxic and competitive strand within their friendships. The space can give characters the courage to confront unspoken tensions within their relationships, with countless conflicts that arise while people are in this combined state of recklessness and honesty, as well as prompting the realization that some connections weren't based on anything meaningful. You might be able to get through the night, but in a place that reveals our inner volatilities and deepest contradictions, you might be the only one left by the end. Nearly anything can be made to look better on screen. High school is romanticized, breakfast becomes the best meal of the day, Jon Favreau becomes weirdly attractive, and the club becomes a necessary space for self-actualization. While the grimier aspects of the clubbing experience are often excluded on screen, many of its overlooked powers are pushed into the spotlight and projected through a more complex lens. It can be the fantasy we want it to be, opening our eyes to new relationships, friendships, and facets of our identity, Or we can be consumed by these idealistic projections, instead losing sight of the necessary masks we wear on the outside and behaving in a way that impacts who we are in the real world. But for all its downfalls, it is one of the few third spaces that still exists where we can be whoever we want to be. You can look for love, for yourself, for authenticity or freedom, and be met with complete reciprocation as long as you respect your own limits and the unspoken rules of the club. And in a world where escapism is often confined to online spaces and screens, perhaps it isn't so bad to see the club through a slightly rose-tinted lens, to be encouraged to step into its unpredictable power. Because who knows how we'll be changed when we come out the other side.